Okay. The hydraulic brake is the use of the liquid under pressure to transfer the force or motion or to increase an applied force, isn't it? So, okay. And the pressure on a liquid is called as the hydraulic pressure. Use that the hydraulic pressure to apply the braking. So regarding this, in 1980, the Malcolm located developed a hydraulic brake system. So you know that there are we already discussed that there are different types of the brakes: mechanical brakes, hydraulic brakes, and power brakes. But today we talk about the hydraulic braking system. So, dear students, you know the principle hydraulic works. That means hydraulic brake works on the principle of hydraulic, known as the Pascal's law, which is stated as the pressure applied to a fluid in a closed container. Uh, that is, in a closed container, is transmitted with equal intensity through the liquid at right angle to the surface of the container. So here what the statement, the pressure at a point in a fluid is equal in all direction in a space. And according to this law, when pressure is applied on a fluid, it travels equally in all directions. So that uniform braking action is applied in all the four wheels. Okay. So you can see here the constructions. This is a pedal. This is called as the master cylinder, and it's the heart of the hydraulic system. Master cylinder plays a very important role, and it contains the special fluid that is it made from the either glycerin or alcohol. It's called as the hydraulic fluid. Okay, this is the pipeline of the other wheels. This is a hydraulic piping system. Okay, this is called the wheel cylinder, isn't it? This is the return spring, and this is a brake shoe. This is one brake shoe. This is another brake shoe. It is tied with the hinge. Okay, this is a fixed type, but this portion and this portion is to move the brake fluid, which is usually the mixture of glycerin and alcohol, which is the mixture of the glycerin and alcohol or castor oil, and denatured the alcohol is filled with the master cylinder. When pedal is depressed, the piston of the master cylinder, that piston of that master cylinder is forced into the cylinder, okay, and the entire system turns in a pressure system. It applies the force on that liquid turns into the, that hydraulic fluid turns into the pressure system immediately. And the piston wheel cylinder, it comes that high pressure oil into the wheel cylinder. So wheel cylinder slides outward. That wheel cylinder slides outwards, in turns moves the brake shoes to stop the rotating drum. That wheel cylinder, that you can see the moves outward direction, and that shoe it tighten the it slide and tighten to the rotating drum. So yeah, moves the brake shoes to stop the rotating drum. When pedal is released, the return spring, you can see here that return spring of the master cylinder, that return spring of the master cylinder uh, moves the piston back to the original position, and causing a sudden pressure drop in the line, and the retraction spring, and the retraction spring the brake shoe bring to the back to their original position. Okay, so when we release that, the pressure and force on pedal, that piston moves to its original position, and that high pressure liquid return back to the master cylinder, and the pressure created in wheel cylinder is decreased, so that B1 and B2 are come to their original position, and it remove the braking system on the rotating drum. The master cylinder is the heart of the brake hydraulic system. I already talked to you. It converts that force exert on the brake pedal into the hydraulic pressure to apply the brake. And depressing the brake pedal moves a push rod that in the master cylinder. Mounted on the push rod are the pair of the piston, primary and secondary, in tandem, and one after the other that force against the fluid in the master cylinder core. Okay. So what is the that master cylinder fitted or is shaped like a spool, and when the brake pedal is released position, the space around the piston is full of the fluid, which enters the intake port, and the pressure created displays the fluid through the various brake circuit line to each of the wheel and applies the brakes. And since the brake fluid is incompressible, it acts like a liquid linkage between the master cylinder piston and calipers and wheel cylinder. So this is the master cylinder. Actually, you can see here the master cylinder. The piston is shaped like the spool. This is you applying the pedal force here. You can see here the primary and secondary. This is filter cap. Okay, this is a secondary piston assembly. This is primary piston assembly. Okay. So the space around the piston is full of fluid which enters into the intake port. Okay, and rubber cup is at the front end of the piston, and washer on the rear side are provided. The rubber cup on the front side is known as the primary cup. You can see here primary and secondary, and it acts as a seal while piston is moving ahead, whereas the same cup allows the oil to flow from the piston side to the spring side while the piston going to back. The washer on the other side of the piston does not allow the oil to leak off, or in some other design the washer is replaced by another cup known as a secondary cup. And when pedal is depressed, the master cylinder piston moves ahead against the spring pressure, and fluid start entering the reservoir through the bypass port until it is not covered by the piston. And after bypass port of the cover, the fluid will flow toward the wheel cylinder through the check valve. Or on the release of the pedal, the piston returns to its original position very quickly. As a result, vacuum is created in the spring side of the cylinder, and this allows the primary cup to collapse, causing a fluid to flow from the piston side to the spring side, and maintaining the entire cylinder on atmospheric pressure. So the master cylinder falls to atmospheric pressure. The pressure in the brake line is still high. This difference of the pressure causes the check valve to lift over its seat, and the return spring of the master cylinder is designed to repeat the check valve as soon as the pressure in the brake line falls to 0.5 kg per meter square. And this residual pressure in the line helps to reduce the chances of air leaking into the system and the leakage of the fluid from the wheel cylinder. So, a wheel cylinder is a component of the brake system. It is located in each wheel, and it is usually at the top above the shoe. And its responsible is to export for exert the force onto the shoe so they can contact the drum and stop the vehicle with the friction. Okay, so this is the brake shoe actually, the fluid under the pressure enters in between the two cups, forcing the piston to move out in a wheel cylinder, and the moment of the piston is transferred to the brake shoe through actuating pin, and the cups are designed to hold the pressure without any leakage, and spring keeps to apart the pressure in the line, decreases the rubber. That rubber boots on both sides of the wheel cylinder are mounted to prevent the system from the dust, and bleeding valve is also connected, which help in pumping out air if at all it enters the system. And the wheel cylinder assembly is directly bolted to the brake backing plate. So it is responsible to exert the force onto the shoe so they can contact the drum and stop the vehicle friction. And this is the brake shoe are made up of the two pieces of the seat that is still welded. It is covered as a brake shoe. You can see here. This is a brake shoe, and then one side is welcome to the brake drum, and other are free to move by the action of the can or wheel cylinder. And this is called the lining table. This is a brake lining. It is made from the frictional material from asbestos. Okay. Now this is the brake drum. You can see here. This is called the brake drum. It's generally made up of this special type of cast iron, and it is positioned very close to the brake shoe without actually touching it, and rotate with the wheel and axle. So brake fluid are used to transfer force into the pressure interval because of the liquid are incompressible, and since oil damage the rubber seals and hoses in the braking system, the brake fluids are not petroleum based, and most brake fluids used today are glycol ether base, but mineral oil and silicone that we can say the it's dot 5 based fluids are also available, and it is specially type of the fluid named of the SAE. SAE means Society of Automobile Engineers 1703J, and must meet the following requirement. That is, you can see here the this is the foot pedal, this is called the master cylinder, and this is the piston. This is called the piston. It contain the hydraulic oil. So this is the wheel cylinder. It is mounted on the first two wheel and last two wheel of the vehicles or tractors. When brake pedal is pressed, what happens? That piston moves and create the pressure on the hydraulic fluid. That high pressure oil come into the wheel cylinder, and that two cups is move in opposite direction, and it moves in opposite direction. So the brake shoes are expand and it mm, uh, brought into contact with the surface of the rotating drum, and it stop down or slow down the rotation of the rotating drum. You can see here the piston 1 and piston 2 here. So what are the disadvantage of the hydraulic brakes? Advantage or disadvantage? Advantage: equal braking action on all. We can apply the at a time equal braking to the all four wheels. Increase the braking force. It is a simple in construction. It is a low wear rate of the braking lining. It is a flexibility of the brake lining, and it increases the mechanical advantage also. So, what are the disadvantage of this uh, braking system? Whole braking system fails due to the leakage of the fluid from the brake line. Second, the presence of the air inside the tubing ruins the whole system. Okay. Okay.